Okay, for a second, I thought you were going to say you're going to be like with Florida fans or something. And I was like, what's going on here?
Do I look like a moron?
Welcome to My God Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I preview the 2022 edition of the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. And we answer questions from you, our listeners. As always, remember to check out store.mygodapodcast.com to see our latest merch. And you can follow us on social media at My God Podcast. Finally, we'd love for you to check out our presenting sponsor, Oxia Time, at oxiatime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. Now, let's join the conversation in progress.
It's about that time, Jim. It's FTMF. It's FTMF season.
That's right.
My watch says it's FTMF week.
I like it. Hey, with it being FTMF week, I had to bring the Sorry Carter t-shirt as well.
Ooh, I love it. I like it. I have my church attire on, so FTMF does not jive very well at the Baptist church.
That's okay. It's funny. I was thinking earlier today that even though we did 2 episodes last week, it still feels like we haven't talked in a long time.
I know, right?
I guess it's just from doing it later in the week than usual.
It's true. We didn't do the review. We didn't do a
there was
review
no
episode
review.
on our, yeah.
There was nothing to review. That's fair. So I guess that's part of it. But yeah, coming out a little later. You had the anniversary. Happy belated. I know I told you the other day, but happy anniversary.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So
we're headed to a concert to actually celebrate, but we were doing stuff on that anniversary. We're going to the Amos Lee concert at the ASO tomorrow.
Cool. Excellent.
If anybody's going, let me know.
Nice. Yeah, right. Seriously. And then I know on Tuesdays you've got soccer. I also had something I had to go to. Ella had a theater thing through school, so that wouldn't work either. So go in with the Wednesday night recording. So
Yep. Well, you had the theater. I had anniversary. We have family obligations. So
yes, we're making it work.
I noticed that pretty much everybody had podcasts come out today. I think I hadn't had a chance to listen to everybody, but there's a number of podcasts that came out. So we're just going to give you something else to listen to the next day.
That's right. I actually got a chance to watch. I didn't finish it yet, but you're recording later. I actually had a chance to watch some of Graham and Josh with their film breakdown. So I watched a little bit of that today, actually. You just don't have that as input into our recording.
Yeah, I started listening to you guys, but wasn't able to circle back to actually watch. That's one of those that you have to watch.
Yeah, I like to watch it too.
Yeah, I'm a visual person.
Well, all right. Let me get to my bourbon.
Let's do it.
So
what you got? What do you got this morning or the afternoon, evening?
All right. So since you gave me some grief last time, I just opened my McKenna 10-year bottled and bond. So this is first time. Never had it before.
Excellent.
So we will see.
I am dipping into the Full Tilt Elite.
Ah, excellent. Very good. Very good.
My infinity bottle. I poured a little bit from my infinity bottle because I had a few. I don't. Maybe if you're a bottle person, if you have multiple bottles, you maybe get to a point where you're like, yeah, I don't really like that one quite as much. Maybe it'll be good mixed with this other one. And so
right.
I have a little bit of that going on here, and it's really good. I enjoy it.
Nice. Excellent. Yeah,
it's mostly peated whiskeys. I have a couple of peated whiskeys and Scotch, a little bit of Scotch cask that threw in there as well. Some Weller. What else is in there? Some Four Roses single barrel. Let's see what else. Some other ones in here. I think a little bit of Eagle Rare, a little bit of Weller.
All good stuff.
I got a little bit of good stuff in here mixed in with some stuff that I felt like needed a little bit of help.
Okay. Got it. Nice. Yeah, I should probably do that. I had waited forever to start actually drinking from my infinity bottle, and I have started doing it now. I do enjoy it. It's good.
Yeah, I think it's before you get too far along in the infinity bottle, I think it helps to just, it's kind of like cooking, right? You take a little sample before you get to the end and make sure that everything's going the way you want it to go. And If it's not, you make adjustments. So
Yep. Fair.
listen. This is elite. This isn't elite for for a reason. This is elite for a reason, right? Like, I've got to make sure that this thing is. I got to pay attention to the details. Live up to the name.
True. Man, so I do like this McKenna tenure. It's good.
I do.
Never had it before.
It's
Yeah,
a
it's good.
solid. It's a solid drink. I think I saw someone post about it. They held up like a comparable, which I don't know that it's necessarily fair, but McKenna 10-year versus Eagle Rare. Like, which one would you like? Because they're both 10-year bourbons. I think the proof on Eagle Rare is lower, if I remember correctly.
I think so. Yeah.
But that was a comparison.
Yeah. This has a little bit more bite to it, I would say, than Eagle Rare. But
For sure.
yeah. Hey, look, I can actually talk about these things now. Can you look at how far I've come, John?
Look at us. Look at us.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
It's like that Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd, who like never ages, by the way. But
He doesn't. He looks the same in Clueless as he does now.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Oh man. Let's see. So, cocktail party. I actually considered making a cocktail for tonight instead of just drinking bourbon, but then like that was going to be too involved for recording.
You do have a cocktail, Jim. It's a cocktail of hops, barley, wheat.
This is true.
Water. You have a wonderful American cocktail.
Right. But I thought about
Cheers.
making like, one of the, like the, whatever it was that John got me, it kind of started my introduction to bourbon. I think like the revolving door or something like that. Thought about making one of those old fashioned.
He did revolving door, old fashioned. I know another one of John's favorites is a Bombardier or something like that.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, you're right. So you're right. This is cocktail enough for the cocktail party, right?
Yeah. I've crossed over to that point where it's like, I'm just gonna have bourbon. I don't want a cocktail. just give it to me straight up, Chief.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I enjoy the most, anyways. All right. Well, let's. You want to jump into the matchup game notes here, as we tend to do?
I suppose there's apparently a party going on this weekend, so
Sounds like it.
we should talk about it.
3:30. CBS Game of the Week. Jacksonville, Florida. Florida comes into this game at 4-3 on the season, 1-3 in the SEC. Being on the CBS Game of the Week, we do have Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, Janny Dell on the call. So apologies to those who don't like Gary, but I think we're kind of like Gary apologists, right? Like we don't mind Gary so much. He's not so bad.
Yeah, I think he gets a bad rap. I think that it's going to be one of those things that we'll look back on and be like, man, I kind of miss Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's Gary Danielson. We'll miss him because 2023 he'll be gone. So second to last one, everybody enjoy it.
Yeah. Assuming we get the annual CBS 3:30 kickoff again next year. Only two more left with him. So,
although I will say maybe there could be an outside shot that maybe he leaves CBS and signs a contract with ESPN. Right. I don't know.
Right. Sure. Could happen.
I personally think that Brad Nessler has been great. He's growing on me. At first, I was like, I don't know about him.
Yeah, I love him. Yeah, no, I like Nessler. He's good. I liked him when he was at ESPN before. Let's see. The official hashtag that we won't use is hashtag UF versus UGA. And
can we talk about this for a second? Can we hit pause on that? Like,
yeah,
there's been so much back and forth. I mean, Stetson Bennett was quoted, and when a reporter asked him, "Is it talk to us about the Florida Georgia game or whatever?" And Stetson was like, "You mean the Georgia Florida game?" Right. How is it that the official hashtag is Florida Georgia, and how has UGA allowed that to happen?
So I think okay, so I could be wrong, but these official
alphabetical.
No, these hashtags tend to go with like it's based off of like home and away versus like who's first versus second. And so my guess is like we might be the designated, something I actually don't even know. Like, are we like the designated away team this week, for example? That could be it while we are second, which I'm not actually sure. I know CBCR2 has Florida listed as the home team, but I don't know if they're going alphabetical for neutral there. I'm not sure.
I tell you what, I can look on. I'm curious now that you've said that. Now I've got to know. I'm curious what the ESPN app says, because the ESPN app, when you pull it up, the bottom team is usually the home team.
Mm.
So I'm curious what
Uh,
ESPN
it
says.
does say verse Florida on the website of ESPN instead of
So
at
we are the
Florida.
bottom team. We're the bottom team on this, which typically means that we are the home team.
Yeah, yeah,
On the
that's what I'm seeing
ESPN
online.
on the ESPN app, it appears that we are the home team.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'd have to go back to. We would have to go back to previous official hashtag weeks and analyze to
Shenanigans. I'm
see.
saying this is not helping the people that are fervent Georgia Florida people. Like this is a travesty from the
Okay,
university
fair,
to allow
fair. We
this.
will complain about the official hashtag.
Come on, Claude.
Well, I will say that, like, we don't set it. It is set because everyone is supposed to use the same hashtag. Fans of both schools. I will say that. I do know that. But I digress. I digress. So
We've gone off the rails.
off the rails. That's okay. It's a cocktail party. You knew we were going to go off the rails for the cocktail party.
You knew it.
The weather, high of 75. Looks like there is some rain in the forecast. So just note that. Looks like showers in the morning, chance of rain in the afternoon. So just beware. Maybe bring a poncho. Josh, we're talking to you. And you don't want to be caught in that stadium unprepared if it is raining, because I have done that before. And that is no fun. If we look at the all-time series record for this game, Georgia leads the all-time series. We say we lead it 54, 44, and 2. Florida says that we lead it 53, 44, and 2, which is where I like to say that is it really a rivalry if the schools don't disagree on the all-time record? So this is definitely a rivalry game.
Yeah, you could say that.
um,
Depending on when you were born,
yeah,
you may think that this is the only rivalry, or
yeah,
that it's not a major rivalry. Depending on when you were born.
yep. When you were born, where you grew up, these are things that tend to get in play. I know, like South Georgia people, for example, tend to think of Florida as the number one rival. You could live in West Georgia, maybe it's Auburn for you. All that kind of stuff. It can be regional as well.
Yeah, seriously, maybe we should put a poll out there from the podcast account, like who is Georgia's main rival, and just see what
Yeah,
the people say.
true. We should do that. We'll do that. You got any fun facts?
You know what? I did not go to the effort of looking up the fun facts. Do you have me?
I've got some. So, I have one thing on Florida. Not so much. This is more about just the game and some things like kind of for this year. One thing for this year, and then just in general. So, one thing. I kind of don't want to get into this too much. We've had so much back and forth this week on Twitter about, like, should the game stay in Jacksonville. So, but I am going to call back to something that I said, I think last week. I mentioned that Mike Griffith was on 960 with Logan last week and went into this diatribe about the game. And one of the things that he said was that this game wasn't always played in Jacksonville, that it had to move there at some point. And that's actually not true. So the first time this game was ever played was in 1915, and that game was played in Jacksonville. So this was played in Jacksonville from the onset. Georgia won that game 37-0. It did move around a bit. I think the next game was played in Athens. It's played in campuses, but since 1933, it's been played in Jacksonville every year, with the exception of 94 and 95, when the stadium down there was being renovated to be able to house the Jacksonville Jaguars when they were named an expansion team. So it has pretty much always been there. So for what it's worth. So that's my first fun fact. And then my other one is something for this year. So, Florida is under new management with their first year head coach, Billy Napier.
under new management.
With first year head coach, Billy Napier, who came from Louisiana Lafayette, which you may or may not recall, is where Stetson Bennett had originally committed to play in 2018 before Georgia offered him a scholarship when he was coming back from junior college. So had we not offered Stetson Bennett a scholarship, he would have ended up at Louisiana Lafayette playing for one Billy Napier, because he was the head coach there back then. So That's why they
Interesting.
put
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that Billy Napier, but I did know that he had other options before we swooped in.
Yeah. His plan, like the day of signing day, like his plan was to sign with Lafayette, but we came through with that last minute offer. Yeah, we'll just end it there. We can save stuff for maybe next year. Let's hit the news.
Are you going to be drinking Gatorade this week?
No, we're Georgia fans. We only drink Powerade.
We only drink Powerade. Exactly. Carter, if you're listening, there's no more Gatorade allowed this week.
Nice.
Sorry.
Nice.
He likes the Gatorades.
I like the blue Powerade. I'm a fan of that.
I'm also a fan of the blue Powerade.
You want to drink the red Powerade, I guess, for Georgia, but I do like the blue Powerade. But yeah.
But yeah. They all dye your mouth whatever color it is.
Fair.
Red's usually less offensive.
Fair. Let's see. News and notes. Sticking with this whole cocktail party thing. I don't know. I have the statement here. I don't know if I have to read the whole thing, but it was interesting that the schools released a joint statement about the game remaining or not remaining in Jacksonville. So they basically, I'll paraphrase, basically like they were getting asked about it. Are we going to renew? And they basically said like, we'll begin the conversations regarding the future games when the last contracted game nears. So I think that's actually next year, from what I recall, is the last contracted game. Then there's an option to extend it to 24 and 25. What I did think was interesting was they said that when the discussions take place, we will consider a multitude of factors, including tradition, finances, future SEC scheduling models with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma, and what is best for both schools' football programs overall. So I think that makes sense, but we'll see where all of that leads. I did kind of look around a little bit. It does seem to be unprecedented that the schools released a joint statement. That usually doesn't happen. So I don't know what to read into that, but we'll see.
I think I saw somebody comment on that on one of those news articles that said, translation, City of Jacksonville, prepare to write a massive check in order to keep this game here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's like we talk about with many things. With all of these things, it's going to come down to money.
Yeah, for real.
All right, let's see. A few notes from Kirby's press conference. So Dan Jackson is out. As we know, he needs foot surgery. Graham dropped that news on us earlier this week. That's out now. Kirby talked about it in Wednesday's press conference. So best wishes to Dirty Dan. Hope you heal up quickly. It does sound like Smile Munden sounds like he's going to be back. Sounds like he is ready to go. So that's good news. In Monday's press conference, both Jalen Carter and AD Mitchell got the hopeful to get him back kiss of death. But Kirby kind of came clean on Wednesday and basically said he does not expect either of them to play. And then Kendall Milton sounds like he might actually return, according to Kirby. He didn't say hopeful or anything like that, so he could come back. We'll see. I kind of doubt it, but it sounds like there's a possibility.
I believe that he mentioned that that they were looking for him to be a go today.
Okay. Yeah.
Something to watch. I guess we'll get to that in a second. But Fair. Good for him. Good for him if he's battled back. He did not get the hopeful kiss of death. So
exactly,
he's got that going for him, which is nice.
Exactly. So before we get into the analysis, I did want to give a shout out. It wasn't a listener question, but it was a request from Rambo. So Rambo, here you go.
Screw Florida and the Muley came in here.
Yes. one of my favorite gifts.
And now we can analyze the game.
And with that, we'll begin.
I guess kind of like usual, right? Let's start with what we're looking for on offense. So when Georgia has the ball, two things I wanted to call out quickly, or two players on the Florida defense. They do have a couple of former Georgia players that have transferred to Florida, which is kind of weird. So you've got Brenton Cox at defensive end, and they've also got Jalen Kimber at corner. We all remember Brenton Cox attempting to chase down Stetson Bennett last year unsuccessfully. that kind of
Unsuccessfully.
just like burned into my brain. You know,
He hit him with the stutter step.
oh my gosh, I actually went back and watched that. That play came up on my Twitter timeline today, and I watched that today. It was, I mean, it was like a 15, 20-yard run by Stetson after he got around him. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's an undervalued runner.
Yeah, seriously. So Cox, and they got Jalen Kimber, who did actually have a pick six earlier this year in their game against USF, which was interesting. I actually tonight in preparation, I watched the like the SEC Inside show where they'll go like behind the scenes of a game. I watched the Florida episode of that tonight. And it was, they did Florida USF was the one, which was interesting. I thought that was an interesting choice of a game to do for Florida. But yeah, he was playing with like a broken hand. He had a cast on, so he had to like make a somewhat one-handed
club.
so he had to make a kind of one-handed-ish interception and ran it back. So yeah, good for him.
That's crazy that so Kimber did a one-handed catch for an INT, and yet he is pretty far down the list of, he's not exactly standing out in their defensive statistics.
No, he's not. And like from what I mentioned earlier that I had started watching the Dog Central Live, with Graham and Josh, and like I didn't watch the defensive part, the Florida defense. I went back and kind of rewatched some of the Florida LSU game. And I don't know, I guess what I was noticing was just like a lot of poor tackling. That's what jumped out to me from the Florida defense. So I'd love for that to continue against us.
So to put it into perspective, just how far down Kimber is in the statistical category.
Yeah.
Jalen Kimber has 4 tackles on the season from what I can see on ESPN.
Okay. Yeah.
Anthony Richardson has 3. The quarterback is just behind him. I mean, and he may get an opportunity to beat out Kimber for the tackles.
Right, seriously. Yeah. Why are you so high on that tackle list there, Anthony?
Well, exactly. I can't imagine why he's so high.
Yeah. So I don't know. So what all else? I don't know. That's all I got on the Florida defense specifically. But what is there anything you're looking to see? Coming off a bye week, right? Like out of this Georgia offense.
So here's what I expect. So statistically, Florida is the better team statistically, Florida is a better team on defense defending the run. So it will be interesting, and I will be looking for us to make a statement in this game from an offensive standpoint by grinding them into dust. We have seen the emergence of Branson Robinson. We have seen the emergence of Daijun Edwards. I alluded to this earlier, but Milton coming back, I'm hoping doesn't take away from Daijun Edwards and Branson Robinson's progress, because I feel like we have become a completely different team without Kendall Milton. There's just no, I hate it. I hate to say that, but like, it's hard not to notice that they have been gaining yards after contact at a higher clip with more prowess than what we've been operating with. Even, Kenny McIntosh, I would even put into that vein as well. Kenny represents a much different threat out of the backfield, but so I expect that he's still going to get his touches just like he has, this entire time. Right. I just hope that we're not taking away from the 2 backs that have emerged, because I kind of feel like we need to keep feeding the hot hand. So it's going to be interesting to see like what the snap counts look like and what the the rushing attempts look like with Kendall coming back. So I really want to see us like present a problem for Florida with the running game, because that's only going to help us exacerbate and expose the passing game, which I had mentioned, I think in a recent podcast, I think maybe the last one, but I think that Stetson could have one of those, Oregon style games where he could open things up. He could open up a can on this defense if we get into a position where we're controlling the run.
Yeah.
If we get into a place where we cannot run the ball, it could be a problem for us.
Yeah, it's funny you just bring up Oregon, because something that was in my head was with the Kendall Milton thing. I was watching some of the Oregon highlights recently, and he looks like a different guy. Like on his touchdowns that he scored, I still feel like he had been playing injured or something. Because like I keep saying, like Kendall Milton just didn't look like he wasn't doing things that we had seen him do before. So who knows? Maybe this rest. I don't know. We'll see. But here's the interesting thing as well. Who is Georgia's leading rusher in rushing yards this season?
Wasn't it Kendall Milton?
Dajon Edwards.
Oh, he's taken it. Wasn't he? I feel like it was Kendall Milton before a certain point.
It could have been, but Dajon's got like 50 yards on him now. So yeah, Dajon Edwards is now Georgia's leading rusher. He's got the most rush attempts and the most rushing yards.
Listen, I have
and
been
touchdowns and rushing touchdowns.
I have been beating the Dajon Edwards drum since last season when I saw him in mop-up duty.
Yes. You have.
I said this kid needs to get more opportunities because he's an absolute. I mean, everybody likes to call him Nick Chubb. I'm like, he's not Nick Chubb. He is the cannonball.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I love the kid. We love him.
The unofficial running back of My God Podcast.
There we go.
There
we go. I like it. Yeah, I mean, dude, Florida gives up. They're giving up a lot of yards. So they're giving up 429.3 yards a game on defense. So it's a lot, and they're allowing 31.4 points a game. So I suspect we should be able to do good things against them.
Vegas apparently thinks that we should be doing this too. Isn't the largest point spread in the history of this rivalry?
It may be. I mean, I don't remember it being like this. It's crazy.
I think I saw a graphic. Maybe it was ESPN or something like that, or one of those shows, and I saw that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is the largest point spread in the history of this game. I mean, what is it? What is it now? I haven't looked at the
actual thing. 22 and a half, I think.
22 and a half? Yeah. I mean, please, dear listener, when was the last time you had a point spread like this coming into the Florida game?
It's crazy. And actually, you know what? Something I kind of meant to mention earlier, but I'll just mention it now. When we did our show over the summer when we had John Smith on, we had a question from UGA Hoops Mafia about like what was the biggest potential trap game for the season, right? Because it was one of our off-season episodes. And I think you had said South Carolina, just because but that was like, you admitted that was fully from your hatred of South Carolina, and like time of year when that happens. John said Mississippi State, right? And then I said Florida. Like I was kind of half joking. So like full disclosure, I was trying to make a joke, but I was like, are we at the point now where Florida could be a trap game, heading into the Tennessee game the following week, kind of a look ahead type situation. So, whatever. Anyways,
it could be. I mean, so here's the thing, like you think about like what would, well, I mean, we can get into this when we get into the actual score predictions, but I'll end up spending 10 minutes on this. So let's just move on.
How about, why don't you spend 1 minute on it?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, if you look at this from I can break it down by offense, defense, right? So we're talking about Georgia's offense and Florida's defense, right? Mm-hmm. That's the general talking we're allegedly on, even though we've gone completely off the rails.
It's the cocktail party. It is the cocktail party.
It is the cocktail party. I'm only 2 bourbons deep at this point, so it could get worse.
So good.
So you've got from a defensive standpoint, what they would have to do is, I mean, how many turnovers do you think that Florida would need to get in order to even come within striking distance of beating us? So you have to have like an epic meltdown from Stetson Bennett, maybe like the likes of which we haven't seen since maybe like the Florida game that we lost a couple of years ago, or SEC championship game. We've got interceptions, and maybe you have a Missouri situation where our reliable receivers drop the ball, things like that. Like,
right.
there's so many things that would have to go wrong from a UGA offensive perspective for them to even get within striking distance for their offense, which we haven't gotten to yet, and I'll get to that point in just a minute. So, like from a UGA offensive perspective, what do they have to do in order to put this game out of reach? And it's the age old, control the ball, control turnovers, all that stuff. Like if we don't turn the ball over, we win this game running away. Period.
Yeah, and I think if a lot of people have been, I've heard it brought up so many times this week, right? That like the flurry at the end of the first half, right? That was spurned by the defense with the pick six and all the turnovers that Florida had, but people just pointing out, right, that our offense hadn't really done much until that point, right? And then we had the 21-point explosion in like a minute of game time at the end of the first half last year. Different staff for Florida, so it doesn't really mean a whole lot.
Totally different. Yeah, no. I mean,
so there's that. But then the other thing is too, our offense wasn't having a good. What's that? Also,
completely different quarterbacks, right?
Well, no. When we're talking about for Florida, no, because AR-15 did start that game. But I think Stetson is different now than he was last year.
Right.
Talking about our offense, and like he had a slow start in that game, so very different. So yeah, I don't think that's really much of a comparison and thing to so much worry about. I do feel like our offense has looked pretty dang good of late. Have the bye week to get some rest. Don't expect to have AD back, but Ladd, I think we could see that his toe was bothering him. Hopefully that off week did him some good. And look for him to. I mean, the kids. He's had some drop struggles, but he just didn't look like he was running right. So hopefully, with that healed toe, I'm looking for bounce back from Ladd as well. So
I believe Graham had some updates about Ladd specifically in one of his recent updates. So if you're head on over to Dog Central to take a look at some of the latest on the injury reports.
For sure. And then obviously we should, we still haven't seen a lot of Kearis. We never doubt Kearis. Could we see some him here? I'm not sure. I don't know. He's been kind of a role player, I guess I would say.
We need to ask some of our insider sources.
What's going
on there?
Yeah,
I do. That has definitely been something that's been top of mind. I just jokingly referred to as Daijun Edwards is the unofficial running back. We we have not forgotten about, but I feel like that. I don't know. I just feel like that it's a targeting issue, like a targets issue, not targeting, but.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
I feel like that whenever he does get throws, that he's producing. But I feel like that maybe there's just too many weapons on the field that are just so glaringly obvious. Like you've got Darnell Washington, you've got Brock Bowers.
Right.
Like when those guys are on the field, they present substantial mismatches when they are running down the field free, hurtling over people. Like,
yeah.
And Ladd is one of Stetson's favorite targets. Like he has been one of Stetson's favorite targets since the beginning, and I think that's part of the reason why Jermaine Burton left. And so, I know Kearis wasn't exactly 100% last year. At least that's my theory. He should be better. I think he's looked good. I think that he just needs to get targeted more, and maybe there's just not that mojo there with him and Stetson. But yeah, you can't ever count Kearis out because if he has like a breakout game in the SEC championship game or a CFP game, like I'm all for it. But like, I would love to see him get more involved for sure.
Agreed. Cool. Anything else on the offense?
All right. So I hate to say this, but like. With the looming game that we have coming up in the following week, do you expect if we're at what point, what does the score need to be at halftime or third quarter or whatever for you to start pulling people? Because I have a feeling that this is going to be a situation, the point spread is the indicator, right? So if we're up by 23 points at halftime, do you start pulling people at halftime or do you take the foot on the gas?
All right. What does my hat say?
I have a feeling that that's probably going to be what happens given the head coach that we have.
So since this is an audio medium, I'm wearing my FTMF hat and Kirby hates these guys, so I'm not sure he's going to take the foot off the gas.
Kirby does hate these guys, but here's the thing. You could keep your foot on the gas, but let's maybe not so much have Stetson Bennett and Dejan Edwards with the foot on the gas. Let's maybe Carson Beck. Like if Carson Beck comes out there slinging the ball around like he did in the last game, like let's keep that mojo going. And by all means, like pile on the points with Carson Beck.
Okay,
but
fair.
Leave my Brock, leave my Darnell, leave my leave all them boys on the sideline and just let the backups FTMF.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I understood. Okay, message heard. So your goal is get to the point where we can get the bubble wrap on these guys.
Yes.
Yeah. I can already feel that.
I mean, there's a very real situation, and we haven't gotten to the defense, but particularly on the defense, and frankly at the wide receiver position, because we came into the season with like an embarrassment of riches, and AD Mitchell goes down. We got Ladd McConkey having issues. You got Brock having issues.
Yeah.
Like I want to protect the depth that we have because we have a big game coming up next week, and we need our A players, and win that game, and you lock up the SEC in a few weeks or whatever. But we have bigger things on our horizon that we need to have players ready to go, and I don't need them getting injured. I don't need them getting injured at the end of the game because Stetson decides that he's going to tuck the ball and run for 10 yards when we're up 30 points and get absolutely clobbered out of bounds.
Right. I know you're having flashbacks. I just saw the Vanderbilt flashback in your head. That's okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, we can get to the defense in just a minute, but before we get there, did want to take a moment to remind our listeners that Season 3 of My God, a Podcast is presented by Oxia Time. If you want to commemorate the Dogs' national championship in style, you've got to check out their Georgia National Championship timepieces. John and I both have one. We're both wearing them right now as we record. I love it. One of the things I guess that I kind of wanted to point out is, unlike some other watch companies, they have these like college braided watches. On this one, you're not going to find Oxia's logo on the dial on the face of the watch. So the entire design is focused on the university's logo and the university's color. So you've got the Power G, you got a bunch of smaller Power Gs there on the face, as well as the official, 2021 national champions, like the official CFP logo. So these things are fully licensed by both the University of Georgia and the College Football Playoff. So definitely got to go out there and check these out.
Yeah, it's for sure going to be the highest quality watch that you're going to find with UGA national champions on it.
For sure. So exclusively for our listeners, you can get 10% off these timepieces by using the code MyGottaPodcast at checkout. So be sure to go check them out. Oxia Time, that's oxiatime.com, AXIATIME.com.
And these are custom watches that you've got to order because we've got Christmas coming up, guys.
That's right. You want to get it for Christmas. You want to order it, by Cyber Monday. So, by Thanksgiving time, you can get it in time for Christmas. All right, John, let's talk about that Georgia defense and the Florida offense. Looking at, so we do have Anthony Richardson, AR-15, as he was called at one point. So he's a sophomore, redshirt sophomore, I think, right? So it's interesting. So he's, 96 of 170 for 1,367 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's also the team's second leading rusher with 56 carries for 395 yards and 6 touchdowns. The leading rusher is Montrell Johnson Jr. He's a sophomore. He's got 59 carries for 425 yards and 7 touchdowns. They also have Trevor Etienne as a freshman, another running back to watch out for. At receiver, they spread the ball around actually a lot like us. So they don't have anybody that kind of jumps out at you from the receiver position. The top 3 guys are Justin Shorter, Ricky Pearsall, and Xavier Henderson. Henderson has the most catches, but looks like he's more of their short yardage kind of possession receiver just based on his yards per catch. So those are the kind of the guys that we're looking at on the Florida offense.
Yeah. I think that the tail of this tape is going to be controlling AR-15. If AR-15, the way that this team goes, even though on paper they have the number 8 or number I can't remember, but I think if I remember correctly, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I thought I had it up, but I thought that they had a pretty solid rushing attack.
Their rushing attack is like number one. Like they run the ball. They got
Right.
a lot of rushing yards.
So here's the thing. So their running game is going to be running into the absolute buzzsaw of the teeth. The teeth of this defense is stopping the run, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what we're built to do.
We've always been built to keep pace, and I believe that if they're going to try to run up the gut, there's no that's not going to happen. If they start running sideline to sideline, that's also not going to happen. Matter of fact, if they start running sideline to sideline and AR-15 starts trying to bounce things outside, this is probably I'm not saying probably, this is the most disciplined defense that they are going to face. And on paper, our numbers for the defense are outpacing last year's all-world defense. I just don't see them trying to run the ball successfully. So in my opinion, I think that this game is ultimately we're going to put the game in the hands of AR-15, which he has shown that, if you eliminate the game that he had like the big numbers on, I think it's like versus everyone else, he's pedestrian.
It's like Eastern Washington and Tennessee. I mean, he exploded against Tennessee, right? Like he had a crazy game against Tennessee's defense. And other than that, he was running for touchdowns, but it wasn't so much throwing for them. So yeah, a lot of stats coming from a small amount of games.
Yeah, I think that ultimately this game is going to rely on how successful AR-15 is, and if he's having a bad day, oh boy, it's going to be sweet nectar for literally everybody in the stadium.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about like staying home, playing good sound assignment football. Don't let him improvise. I mean, like, he's got the highlight plays where he's eluded the rush and spun out and, thrown a crazy pass or broke off a crazy long run. You just got to limit that stuff. And, I trust in Kirby we trust, but, I mean, like Nolan Smith, perfect example, right? Like, look what he did to AR-15 single-handedly last season. So I feel good about it. I feel confident that our defense can handle what Florida's offense can show us.
Yeah.
And like, again, I mentioned like watching like the LSU highlights again, like, and I was saying that Florida's defense was not tackling well against LSU. Like likewise against LSU, like a lot of Florida's big plays, like LSU should have actually stopped them, kind of had them bottled up and missed a tackle. So I don't see us doing that.
No. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think that if they're moving east and west on us, it's just not going to end. It's not going to end very well for them because it's crazy. It's crazy to think about it, man. Like I just don't see literally anybody on our schedule that's going to threaten me trying to move the ball outside the tackles. Like last year, I felt like that we had a heat-seeking missile, in Lewis Cine, but like I feel like this year it's everybody. Like everybody on our team, especially when Smile comes back, which I feel like is also going to present a unique talent on the field that we hadn't seen in a minute.
Yep.
So I just don't see it. I don't see this adding up very well. Like I said, I think that Vegas knows, man, it's going to be a bloodbath in Jacksonville. And I know that you've been telling me to, focus on this game, but like, when was the last time you felt this confident about a Florida game?
Yeah. And that's the only thing I mean, other than last year, no, I'm just kidding. I don't even know that I felt this confident last year, but like,
I didn't.
Yeah. And again, this gets to kind of like, maybe I'm jumping ahead to the kind of final thoughts, but like the only thing I'll say on that is like, I don't have like logical things that concern me, right? Like the only things that concern me are like Munsoning type things, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Like, are we overlooking them? Are we taking them seriously enough? Are people looking ahead to the next game? Things like that. Like those are the kinds of things that concern me. But, that's where the in Kirby we trust, I feel like you have to dial that in and trust that he's going to get these guys ready to play against these guys. And again, like we said it, I'll say it again, FTMF, and like think to Kirby's halftime speech last year. Like after we lost to these guys in 2020, Kirby was pissed, and it showed last year with the now leaked tirade of the halftime speech that I was going to put that on the soundboard, but there was too many sorry Carters for me to even try to deal with it. So like I left it alone. So I'm not going to play it, but like he hates Florida. He hates Florida, FTMF. So I trust that Kirby is making me not worry about the Munsoning type things as much, as I would have said in years past.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you have, ironically, we have Steve Spurrier to blame for that. Had he not done what he did in Athens, where Kirby Smart was on the field to feel that they created in part the man that is Kirby Smart. So maybe we should thank Steve Spurrier for some of what he did, because tough love, like out of failure comes opportunity, that kind of thing. He took that to heart and has taken it fast forward 20, 30 years or whatever, and he's manifested that hatred on the field with not only this is the coach that has been coined for that speech that you talked about from last year, either the speech or I say speech, but like the quote, he was caught on camera talking to the police officers. He coined the FTMF phrase. I believe wasn't it after this game when on the press conference when he got in trouble with his wife, like when he said, I told him, how about those dolls?
Yeah. I think that was Auburn, but we'll.
Okay. Sorry.
But but it was the FTMF that was like the walking off the field. It wasn't like to someone to a press member like the other one was.
No.
Man.
But yeah, man, this guy has a passion for this team. He has a passion for this university, and he is not going to allow a team like Florida to sneak up on us.
Amazing,
particularly in the state that they are right now.
Right. Agreed. Okay, so I'm going to give a little inside baseball right now. So apologies if I seem distracted. I'm scrolling my phone because I just got a text message with a GIF request from John Tweet Sports, which if you're listening to this, check the GIF that we used as the tweet. Now I can't find it. The GIF that we used as the tweet for this, it's the Kirby smacking the gator with the frying pan. John needed that GIF, so I just sent it to him.
I have that GIF.
I just sent it to him.
Nice.
Anyways, so that's what I plan to use as the tweet that announces the new episodes available. All right,
it's a fantastic GIF.
It's a good one. Okay, so special teams. I'll give the same note that I plan to now give every year in Jacksonville. Just reminder. You only hear this kind of analysis at My Gata Podcast. Watch out for the swirling winds in Jacksonville. You never know what's going to happen when someone is kicking the ball, especially if you're kicking toward the open end of the stadium or the end of the stadium that's facing the river. Watch out. Beware of the swirling winds. So just remember that.
Swirling winds. Hopefully that doesn't impact our special teams, which we could get to at some point, because I do have some fun facts there.
No, this is the special teams moment, John.
Oh, this is the moment. Okay, sorry.
This is it. We've arrived.
We have arrived. Hopefully that doesn't have any impact on our nationally ranked third scoring leader.
Yeah.
Jackpot leads the SEC in scoring, but is also tied for third nationally in scoring. Did you know?
I did not know that. I did not realize that. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice special teams fact there, John.
That was my special teams fun fact. I didn't have any fun facts at the beginning, although we are playing the Florida Agricultural School or whatever it's called. That's something that I did run a Google. The Florida Ag. We're playing Florida Ag this week, Jim.
Yeah, they were. I did see some of that. There were like multiple schools that kind of merged into what is now
Florida A&M. And here's a fun fact. Apparently, that Florida Ag College was based out of Lake City. Have you ever been to Lake City?
Lake City? No, I don't think so.
Lake City, Florida is like literally like the worst place ever.
It was worse than Gainesville.
It's worse. I take that back. I haven't been to Gainesville.
Me neither. I wouldn't even know.
So, but Lake City is literally in the middle of the state. It's kind of ruralish. So like, I don't know. It's not fun.
Gotcha. Well, I think if there's nothing else on special teams, we can probably head to the listener questions.
I hope that Jackpot and Bruce are just sitting on the sideline all day long, other than kickoffs.
I love that you just said Bruce, because in your head you were thinking Bruce Thornton, who was a corner when we were in school.
Wait,
Brett Thorson.
Brett, dang it.
Brett Thorson, not Bruce Thornton. But hey, these are the kind of mix-ups that I quite appreciate, actually. As someone who took military science with Bruce Thornton, I love this reference.
Brett.
I knew what you meant.
I feel so bad. But we hardly knew ye.
I know. He doesn't. Yeah, I mean, he's amazing when he does punt. He just doesn't punt a lot.
He did have a season long of 56 yards versus USC. So when he's called upon, he has gotten it done. He's averaging 41 yards per punt, which is 5 have landed inside the 20. So I appreciate it.
He's awesome, man. Like, I felt like we were always missing out on the Aussie punter, and now we know what it's like, and I rather enjoy it.
Yeah, we know what it's like, but like we also haven't exactly needed him. At some point, Brett, you're going to be called upon to drop one inside the 20, and we're going to remember this moment.
True.
The unofficial official punter of My God, a Podcast.
Fair. Noted in the special teams notes. Amazing. Well, as we go into the listener questions, I did want to add one more thing. When John, when we set out to make a podcast, we were like, okay, we're gonna have a podcast. How do we record a podcast? So we did have to figure out a little bit about like how we were going to record this remotely. So if you were ever curious, we do use a platform called Zencastr. So this podcast is powered by Zencastr. It's a remote podcasting platform. It actually does allow you to record video in up to 4K as well as the audio. We just do the audio. That's more of an us thing, but the platform does support it. So if you're looking for like an all-in-one solution, definitely go check out Zencastr. It's what we've been using really from the start, from the get-go. And we're now actually hosting our podcast there as well. So if you are interested, go to zencastr.com/pricing and use code MyGod. You'll get 30% off your first 3 months of Zencastr Professional. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. All right, John, let's get into the listener questions.
The listener questions. Let's go.
All right. First up, we got 51-7 GATA. During the 2007 game, what was the first thing you said as you watched the team run on the field after the first touchdown? Do you remember?
I do remember. I was sitting in the fraternity house, I believe. I think I was sitting in the fraternity house. Was I? No. I'm trying to think. I know exactly what I said. I think it might have been on one of those days that I was in Athens, but I can't remember exactly. But either way, I do remember saying like, "What the hell?"
I think I said something along the lines of,
Oh my God!
I couldn't believe it. I was at home. I do remember I was at home. I remember my sister was over at our house, and I do remember so I guess it would have been like, Kim and I, probably my sister and her husband, Greg. And like, I remember like my sister and I like kind of freaking out and just being like, because, the commentators, I mean, it was a CBS game and they were like, this was planned. And so, which I agreed. I mean, the whole team's not going to do that. I couldn't believe it. I thought there was going to be a fight. I guess good thing. I think, my God, I'm pretty sure it was the first thing I said.
Oh, man. Yeah.
All right. Next up, Zach, SC Dog 864. Last year, we knew Dan Mullen didn't have a chance with how things were going. Do you feel that Billy Napier can build this program up and make this rivalry game mean something like it used to in the past? Also, FTMF. I guess I can start off on this one. I don't know a ton about Billy Napier. I mean, I don't follow Lafayette super extensively. I know he is from the Saban tree. I know he was on that staff where like Kirby was a DC and Lane Kiffin was the offensive coordinator. So he did at least spend some time with Saban. I don't know, man. Like it all depends on recruiting, I would say, and can they get some more depth, especially on the line of scrimmage. So it's going to come down to if he can do that or not.
Okay, so he's in year one right now. So Kirby lost to Vanderbilt in year one. So basically, he's kind of a wash at this point, right? So
Right.
you can't really judge the guy on year one. That said, Kirby was pulling in recruits on a whole other level. And Napier is just not. I'd have to look and see. I mean, to put it in context, like I don't think UF is anywhere near the top 10 in recruiting right now.
Yeah. Well, and he didn't. Also to be fair, like he didn't inherit the roster that Kirby did either. Like Kirby's, the frontline players that Kirby inherited were very good. It was the depth that was the problem.
I don't. Someone mentioned that Florida. So you say that like okay, so it looks like they are number eight. So, but they have no 5 stars, and I think that's part of what's going on here is that they have decent players, but they're just not anywhere near the caliber of players that are needed to compete at the level that we are. So like in order for them to like Logan likes to talk about when Dan Mullen like, hey, we're closing the gap. Like everybody would talk about that. Like, no, you're not. The gap is literally getting bigger because in order for you to close the gap, you've got to be, we're number 2 in the recruiting rankings. For example, Alabama's number 1, whatever.
Yeah.
In order for you to close the gap, you got to be number 1.
Yeah. Right. Seriously.
So if the rich are getting richer, like the only way for you to close that gap is for you to get richer than they are. And that's not happening.
Yep. I feel like he's got to kind of deal with the sins of the past from Mullen, right? Because Mullen was the kind of guy that was like, I'm smarter. I can coach these guys up and they're going to run my system. And so I don't care about the recruiting rankings. And that's look at where it got him,
Yeah, but at the same time, I think that Napier has been the kind of guy that's like, so here's the thing that I'll say about Napier. Kirby has been very complimentary of Napier. From what my understanding is that he was very impressed with Napier's preparation and the way that he structures the details. And that's the difference between a Kirby Smart and an Ed Orgeron. You can catch lightning in a bottle with an Ed Orgeron. Guy can, bring players in and all that kind of stuff, but he can't keep it together because the details are missing. And that's exactly what happened to him. You're seeing that with Jimbo Fisher. You're seeing that with Steve Sarkisian. I don't think that those guys, they have such high regard in the industry or whatever, but like, I never believed in it. Napier I feel like he's somewhere in between. He's like not exactly Dan Mullen, but he's not exactly Jimbo Fisher. He's not exactly Dabo Swinney. He's not exactly Kirby Smart. And I don't know that he's going to get the time. I don't think that Florida is going to give him the leash that he needs, because I think that I've heard him say these things like that he wants to slow the roll. Like I think he's made some comments like to set expectations with the program, like this is going to take time and all that kind of stuff. I just don't know that those people are patient enough to allow that to happen, especially with the emergence of Tennessee in year 2.
That's a good point.
Tennessee in year 2 is only going to put pressure on Florida in year 2. So I don't believe that they're anywhere close. So like if you looked at the 2 programs, like Tennessee and Florida were kind of in the same boat, historical dominating programs, and they've been absolute for the last however long it's been. And they've gone through multiple coaches. I just don't know that Napier is the guy that's going to take them to the promised land. I think he could potentially be their like Mark Richt type person that could get them to a position where they might springboard there. He may be good for, 9, 10 wins or whatever. I just don't know that I don't think that he has a killer instinct like Kirby does. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I don't think he's Mark Richt either, for what it's worth. But also,
fair.
Also, sorry, Carter. But it's cocktail party. Let's see, Micah. I'm going to go to Micah's second question because we already talked about the first part. Do you guys think we should be giving Robinson more touches than we are now? I know you were saying you want to see his touches not diminish. Do you think he needs more? Robinson?
It depends. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, if the pass protection is there in terms of, and we're talking about rushing attempts, right? So if rushing attempts is the answer, like yes, I think that Dejon Edwards and Branson Robinson have played themselves into more touches, 100%.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. Bourbon of choice for Saturday. Do you know? Do you have a bourbon of choice? Do you got anything
Bourbon of choice
lined up
for
to drink during the cocktail party?
It's going to depend on what we're doing because it's kind of up in the air right now. If we're with who I think we're going to be with, I hope we're going to be with, some folks from church, maybe dialed back on the bourbon. But
okay, for a second I thought you were going to say you're going to be like with Florida fans or something, and I was like, what's going on here?
Do I look like a moron? No, sir. I do have Tennessee fans in my circles, but I don't. I do have some Florida fans. Which, Mike, if you're listening, probably not. Mike, there's a specific Florida fan in my life that has given me absolute hell, and I have not really messaged him at all recently, just because it's like one of those like, I don't want to punch down. You punch up, right?
Right. Fair.
So, but he has been a ghost the last few years.
That's funny.
I like it that way.
I actually got the neighbor of mine who lives his house is kind of like diagonally behind mine. His name is Mike. He's a Florida grad. So I also have a Florida grad friend named Mike.
Florida grad Mike, yeah.
He is like, he doesn't like text me stuff. Actually, he's also a Lions fan, so he'll mainly text me when like DeAndre Swift scores a touchdown. Like he loves DeAndre Swift. He's like, yeah. But he's kind of he's down on the Gators. So let's
both text our UF grads Mikes and just see what they say. And then on the review we can update everybody on the status of the Florida Mikes.
I'll tell you, my Florida Mike stopped by during the game last year because he was like out for a walk and stuff. We were watching the game on the porch, and he just kind of stopped by.
He left the game.
He was like, "Oh my gosh, what is going on?" It was pretty fun. I think he like came. I think he was there for the crazy flurry of all the turnovers. It's like, you got to stay. You can't leave.
Wow.
Okay, so we went off the rails and didn't talk about bourbons. I will say I usually don't drink bourbon during the game. I'll usually have one. Yeah, I usually drink, not a sponsor. I usually drink Creature Comforts during the game. And I'll have a bourbon tonight. So I don't know, maybe I'll have this McKenna Saturday night.
Yeah, I'll probably be on the Eagle Rare. I'll probably be an Eagle Rare.
Okay.
I just picked up a backup bottle, so I've got a pretty solid amount. That, or I'll do an Elijah Craig bourbon and Coke. Elijah Craig small batch.
Okay, fair. Aaron King starts with, "Hey guys," and hey Aaron, it's been a while, buddy. Thanks for checking in. Why do you think our passing game has seemingly taken a back seat to the running game over the last few weeks? Were we just working on the running game to help us create a more balanced attack down the stretch? I honestly feel like this is one of the things that we've harped on so much with Monken, and that I think Monken is good at, is the whole like take what the defense gives you. I feel like it's been a function of we've been playing teams that are not as good against the run, and so therefore we've been running the ball. I think it's that. I think it is also. I did see some commentary from Kirby about like he did talk about recently like wanting to improve the run game. I think they basically noticed. Remember when Kirby got the question about the run game and when he chimed in with
a lot of things, no offense, that you guys don't understand about football.
And when he told us that there are some passes that are runs, I think like after all that stuff was happening, they did kind of they self-evaluate a lot. And I think they kind of realized like, hey, we probably should run the ball because there could come a time where we're going to need to. So I don't know. I think it's a function of those two things on top of each other.
I'll put this in perspective. How much of that do you think happened when Kendall Milton got hurt?
I guess it is the same window.
I love Kendall Milton. I love Kenny McIntosh, but they go down so much easier than Dejan Edwards and Branson Robinson. Branson Robinson and Dejan Edwards are problems in terms of tackling. Much like Sony Michel, much like Nick Chubb. Like I know that I think Branson or Dejan, I can't, maybe both. I don't know. They both kind of have that same similar build that Chubb had.
Mhm.
They don't go down easy and they fall forward. There's that comment about running backs. Like when you look back at all the great Georgia running backs over the last 5 to 10 years, you know, the Noshans. I mean, Noshan is probably the biggest one. Like I feel like he would run into a brick wall on the offensive line and somehow he would fall forward for 3 yards. And it's like, holy crap. Like, how did you do that? Like you did, like there was nothing there. And all of a sudden we had a 3-yard gain. Like that's the kind of stuff that I'm seeing. Yes. I am seeing that kind of stuff now with Dejan Edwards and Branson Robinson running the ball. And not to say that I don't see that from like Kenny McIntosh, but like I see it more. Does that make sense?
It does.
It's rooted in just how I feel and what I see.
I know this is where like Josh is listening and is like, I have the statistics to show you you're wrong.
Exactly.
Which is possible. Highly possible.
1,000%.
But I do know, like, and like I will say too, like, you know, we tend to think of Todd Gurley for his home run type run.
Todd Gurley, same thing.
That guy, Todd Gurley would turn like some of his best runs were for like 2 yards when it should have been like a 7-yard loss. And he would. I said
Noshan. It was Todd Gurley. Yeah, you're right.
Noshan could do that too. But Todd, to me, Todd was the king of that. He would turn nothing into something. You know. So
exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what you want from a UGA running back.
Yep.
You know, to your point, you know, given what the defense is giving you, like taking it.
Right.
Like that. I do think that's an element here. The other thing, and this is something Graham mentioned on, you know, and George was eloquent-ish. His connection wasn't as good, but
there were some microphone issues. Just some microphone.
On 100 Sanford, like basically what the gist was that they were zone blocking versus gap blocking, right? Did I have that right?
Yeah, you got that right. Yeah, zone scheme versus gap scheme. Yep.
Zone versus gap, and so I believe, like, correct me if I'm wrong, they moved to like the gap scheme, right?
So it's twofold. So I think there are two things that happened. One, it's been more balanced, I believe, between zone and gap. Two, the second thing, which is what's interesting, is they've actually gotten better at zone scheme, from what I recall, from some of the numbers that Graham has put out.
If you start doing something that you haven't shown that you've been good at, you know, if you start doing something that you haven't shown that your tendency, like I feel like that wasn't it the tendency that we were doing way too many zone.
Yeah, it was.
Schemes,
Yeah,
we were struggling. We were struggling with the zone scheme and
we were more balanced, or we weren't balanced, right? Like we were running more zone runs than gap.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we were doing the gap runs, when we were doing more, like we were doing good at the gap runs, right? So then we started doing more of that, but then we also tried to get better with the zone runs, right?
Yep.
So when you do the things that you are clearly better at and get better at the things that you're not good at, that equates to a very successful running game.
Yeah,
and I think like long-winded way of saying like we just did things better.
Like seriously, like there's been a pretty big change there. Okay, I'm going to read these next two questions back to back. They didn't come in back to back, but I'm going to read them back to back, and I want you to kind of like pick which question you're leaning towards, because they're both kind of leading questions. What's going to happen? So Chad Jarvis says, do you think this will be a complete performance like the beginning of the year against Oregon, with us having time to iron out the small little kinks? That's what Chad says. Now, Benjamin comes in with the Munsoning side and says, do you think the Dogs will get off to a slow start, bog down in the red zone, and start the game kicking field goals? So I thought those were two very polar opposites. So I'm kind of posing this as like, where do you think we land in this game?
I think we land on the complete game side of things.
I agree. I feel like, you know, the bye week, the time off, the focus, getting healthy, getting focused. And you know what? Something we didn't talk about earlier, Stetson got an extra week to rest that shoulder, right? We've seen him working that shoulder, trying to get that ready. That's got to help time off.
Yeah, I'll tell you, like, I've had a shoulder. I have no idea. I haven't had it diagnosed because I'm stubborn and don't go to the doctor. But like, I've had a shoulder, like all this shoulder talk lately has like really hit home for me because it's like, yeah, dude, I've got this shoulder problem that's been around for like a month. I'm like, sitting here like, what, we're 41, and it's like you sleep wrong, and all of a sudden your shoulder's like jacked up. I feel like that's what happened.
If only you had a friend that knew about such things.
I know, right? Paul. Yeah, but that would require me like making effort to like go and get it fixed.
Paul, if you're listening, call John.
That's just too difficult. But yeah, like
David Lee's gonna slide to your you're gonna slide into your DMs.
David Lee's like, you need labrum surgery. Yeah, I feel like that I've had a shoulder injury that I have had from repetitive motions. And so I'm sure that Stetson is in that vein too. And I have noticed that when I take time off, like it feels better. But when I exacerbate it, like I did on Monday, it hurts. So I'm sure that he's feeling better. But more importantly, like that's why I say like earlier in the podcast, like halftime, I want to be up by 23 and I want him to sit the bench the rest of the game.
I like it. All right, next up, Fletcher Proctor. He wants to know a player that has been snubbed from the illustrious Georgia-Florida game Hall of Fame and a player you would ironically induct. So I'll read. Fletcher gave us his first. So he said Malcolm Mitchell as his snub, which I think is an excellent choice. Malcolm Mitchell, a Gator Slayer.
Is it a snub? Because I think that aren't there some guys that haven't been inducted that are like much more illustrious?
Yeah, but let me give you a case in point here. Like Aaron Murray is in it already, and I feel like that was the big connection. Aaron Murray to Malcolm Mitchell was like the game sealing touchdown, right? So why isn't Malcolm Mitchell doing it?
It's true, but correct me if I'm wrong. But like Aaron Murray's stats in this game were much more substantial.
There are so many guys that are huge Georgia players that did not do much in this game. Or never won. So let me give you a counter to that. Right, John Stinchcomb is in the Georgia-Florida Hall of Fame. He never won that game. So so I feel like Malcolm Mitchell should be in there.
Well, when did he get inducted versus when he played?
I can actually give you that answer. John Stinchcomb.
He was inducted last year.
Yeah, last year. And so, it was earlier.
He's pretty far removed from his playing time. So, like, Aaron Murray was inducted in 2018. That's,
So, I don't know. Like I'm saying, he never won it. Boss Bailey also was in this and never won in this game. So, I'm just saying.
Here's something to think about. So, Aaron Murray got inducted in 2018. Tim Tebow got inducted in 2017.
Yeah, it is crazy.
That's crazy to me. Like looking at the Florida list, there's so many guys that like I would have inducted way before, like Chris, whatever.
Yeah. And then he wanted his ironic was Felipe Franks or Chauncey Gardner. So Chauncey Gardner was the guy that like said Fromm only throws slants and then like got hurt when Fromm threw a slant to Swift. Okay, so mine. I am going to go with Mike Bobo as my snub. So Mike Bobo is not in there. And he ended the drought. He was the quarterback of the drought-ending team in 1996. Right? Bobo should be in there.
Oh, my gosh. That is a snub.
Right? So, like, Robert Edwards, was the running back on the team. He's in there. Mike Bobo is not. So Mike Bobo is my snub.
Who did Mike Bobo piss off at the Georgia-Florida Hall of Fame?
He's got to be in there.
Oh my gosh, that's egregious. That is egregious,
right? I feel like that was a good one.
Okay. That's a good one. I'm glad that you did the research on that because I would have sucked at that one.
My ironic, I have two that I could go with. Noah Brandeis. He was the Florida quarterback that came in for Rex Grossman in that same year in '97. The other one I would add is Jordan Reed, who is actually like a really good football player, but he's the one that fumbled the ball. Well, not totally fair. Like he's the one that Jarvis Jones caused to fumble the ball into the end zone. in that same 2012 game we talked about earlier to end that game. So those are my answers for you, Fletcher.
I've got one. I'm going to throw one out there.
Okay, here we go.
I'm going to throw one out there because I just looked through the list that you sent me because you were kind enough to send me the list of all of the UGA ones. And I just did a quick search on a particular one because I noticed that the first inductee from the University of Georgia was one Vince Dooley.
Yes.
Mark Richt is not on this list.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay. Well done, John. Well done. Yeah.
I came through in the end. For you, Fletcher.
Nice. That's a good one. I like it. We need to get him in there.
He'll get in there eventually. I'm just looking. I'm actually like the way that panned out. I was like looking at like, all right, when was this guy done? Like it's an inevitability. So like David Green got inducted in 2012, right? So like I imagine that like in a few years it'll be Mark.
Yep, fair. Which, by the way, in case you're wondering, this year the Georgia inductees going in are Champ Bailey, namesake of your dog, by the way, and John Little. So they're going in for Georgia this year.
In that same vein, Kirby Smart is not an inductee in this as well.
True, and he had at least one interception.
He had a big game. Yeah,
that same 97 game with Bobo, he had a pick, at least one pick, if not multiple. So,
man, what about? Wait, hold on, is Muschamp in here? Is Muschamp?
I'm trying to think with Muschamp though. Like he was he may fall into that never beat Florida category as a Bulldog.
I thought him and Kirby played together though.
Yeah, but when Kirby was like a freshman. When Kirby redshirted was Muschamp's like senior year, and the year that we beat them with Kirby was his junior.
I was just about to say, I think there's a conspiracy with the UGA coaching staff. I'm just saying.
Could be. All right. Friend of the show, Tim Rowley had two things. Okay, he said, "What would it take for Kirby Smart to tell his team to rush the field after a touchdown?" I think he ended up saying. So he said. At the time, incredible, but maybe not Coach Mark Richt's finest moment. I will say, and if you haven't listened to it yet, our podcast friends, 100 Sanford, they had Coach Richt on recently, and he reiterated the fact that he did not instruct the entire team to go on the field. That wasn't what he meant. They all misunderstood him. So for whatever that's worth. Funny thing on here, John, here's what I actually want to focus on. What he offered as to give to Kirby was an epic 2002 Delt party night with Boss and George. Did Big George come to one of our parties? Because I don't remember this. I feel like I missed that one. We have to have this conversation later. We got to ask him.
I feel like that he did because I distinctly remember. I believe that it was a Trotline concert that he's referring to because at that time I was living in the house, so I was definitely there. Because
I remember like Richard Seymour and Charles Grant coming. Fred Gibson was around a lot. I don't remember George ever coming, but he may have. David
Pollock came when we had Pat Green in the backyard. that was the concert that I organized.
Nice, well done.
Dude, so that was an epic one, by the way.
So I agree with Tim though that I don't think Kirby would never. You first off, because it's already happened, you can't do it again. You can't replicate that. So we'll go to his next one, which is most memorable Georgia-Florida game attended. He said, "I know Jim and I never witnessed a win as undergrads. True story." He said there was a time.
True story for me too.
And he said there was a time we Delts rented an RV for the game that was epic. Tim was put in stadium jail, as well as a run-in with Rex Grossman partying at the Landing. Jacksonville will do awful things to people. I had forgotten that Tim got sent to stadium jail until he sent that. I need
a story on this because I don't think I knew that. That's new information. My God, a podcast after dark.
My God, a podcast stories after dark. Tim in stadium jail.
So along that same line, like Wise Dog had a fantastic thread about this game. Did. Like he put out there, and man, if you have not followed Wise Dog's thread about like, hey, what's your most memorable? It was kind of the same question, right? Like, what's your most memorable?
We'll have to go. Yeah, we'll have to go find that and retweet it, or put that tweet in the show notes or something because the replies were amazing.
I mean, some of them were just like absolutely epic. Like I was
Yeah.
like, wow, this is ridiculous.
So let me ask you this: like, have you ever been to a game that we won there?
I know I'd never been.
Okay. So that's my default answer is 2004. So I did not ever see a win as an undergrad, but I did see us win there in 2004. It was pretty epic. And I remember I was actually sitting, so I went with Patrick, and we actually had Florida alumni tickets that we had gotten through some connections. So we were on the Florida side, and I was like too young and stupid to be like, hey, maybe you shouldn't act like an idiot amongst Florida fans. And I was super obnoxious. But I was 24 years old. Like, I don't know, whatever. But the thing that is ingrained in my mind was I think it was the last touchdown. There was a pass from David Green to Fred Gibson where like it looked like it should have been intercepted, and Fred Gibson extended his arms and caught it and scored. That's what sticks. And I went like berserk. So that's my moment.
That's funny. So I went in 2002 and I went in 2003, and I watched from the fraternity house for 2004. I graduated in 2004. I did not go in 2001. I can't remember where I was. I think it was at home. But I watched. I went with, you may remember, Clay Carlock, Tyler Turner, all those guys. I went with some buddies from the fraternity. We stayed at a Days Inn. It was probably 15 or 30 minutes from the stadium. I have no idea where it was, but man, that was so fun. It was like me, Tyler Cord, I think Adam Allenson, I don't know, some buddies, and we went. It was a fantastic group, and we had all of our significant others and like prospects or whatever with us as well. I think there was a girls' room and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that was a fantastic trip. And then I think that was the 2002 game, if I remember correctly, because I think it was 03. So I think 02 was when we did the Days Inn thing, and then 03 we stayed at St. Simon's. We did the St. Simon's experience.
Yeah.
And I just remember fighting for my life at the landing. Like there were so many people at the landing, dude, to the point where I got pickpocketed. To the life of me, I can't like fathom getting pickpocketed by anybody. But like I lost my wallet out of my back pocket in that game.
Oh my gosh.
You may remember the girl I was dating, but like I was dating Rachel. She was this little tiny girl, and like, you know, there were so many large people around. I was like just pushing people off of her, and just people running into us and stuff. Like I remember distinctly going down the escalator and just being like, "Oh my God, we're gonna die."
It's funny because the landing was always like so packed, and like as an undergrad, like I had so much fun there. But like it's a weird thing about that trip, right? It's like I have great memories of going to that game in college, yet we never won. So it's not so much about the game; it was about the atmosphere and the party, I guess.
I just remember Tyler coming up to me at the landing with like, I was like, "Where did you get this football? Like, what is this football you have in your hand?" And he's like, "It's a football full of Jack and Coke. It's amazing."
So I still have. So I still have my football.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
It's a piggy bank. It is filled with coins. So
no, you need to dump the coins out and just rekindle that. Just rekindle it with the Jack and Coke.
Mine had a hurricane in it, from what I recall, but that was a long time ago.
Okay, maybe it was.
Obviously, I was 21. I was 21 by that trip. Mom and Dad, I know you listen. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, man, what a great. Those were great years.
It was fun. That's why I don't. Sorry, Josh, but that's why I would love to keep. That's why I just have such fond memories. I think it should stay there. But I digress. All right, it is time, John.
Oh my God!
My God, a freshman.
Trying to put glasses on it.
I added a little extra flair for Coach Joe Bill.
I thought you were gonna throw the middle steel chair comments in there.
I actually don't have that one on the soundboard. You need to add that. It's time for Coach's over unders. So, Coach, we thoroughly enjoyed the either ors. last week. But these are the Coaches Over-Unders World's Largest Outdoor Cocktail Party Edition. We will start with the offense. Over-under 2.5 passing yards, which, John, I'll let you choose again. You're in the lead. Do you want to go first on this one?
I'll let you go first.
I go first. Okay. So over-under
touchdowns.
Over-under 2.5 passing touchdowns for the Georgia offense. I'm going to go under.
Oh, I'm going over.
Okay. Up next, you get to go first. Over-under 2.5 rushing touchdowns.
I'm going to go over.
Okay. I'm also going to go over. And then over-under 500 total yards.
Over.
Agreed. Over. Okay. On to the defense. Over-under forced turnovers from AR pick 6. Over-under 1.5. Let's see. I guess it's your turn, I think.
No, it's your turn because I answered the last.
No, but you went out of turn. That's okay. I'm going to go over.
I'm going to go under.
Okay. And then rushing yards allowed. Over under 125 yards.
Under.
Okay. I'm going to go over. Sacks against AR. Over under 1.5.
Over.
Over. Okay. I'm going to go under. Special teams. Over under 55 punt return yards for Georgia. And I'm going to go over.
I'm going to go under.
Okay. I'm going to go first on this one. On this last one too. And you'll see why. This is the miscellaneous. Green seat percentage on the Florida side by the fourth quarter at 50%. I'm going to go over.
Over.
Okay. I figured you want to just match me so we didn't have the controversy. I think they'll be there at the beginning of the fourth quarter. I think they'll leave during the fourth quarter. That was my guess there. That was my logic.
If you are a follower of Dog Central, particularly on the Instagrams, but also on the Twitters,
Yes.
I posted a video about this, and I think there was 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and the Florida side of the stadium was completely empty. I posted a video. Go check it out on Dog Central Instagram. It's so funny. I loved making that video.
Awesome.
It was completely empty. It was completely empty. And this is actually like a shout out to Tony Waller. You can throw him a dog bone because he mentioned it on Wait and Since last Saturday. Great podcast, spawn of inspiration for you and I to start this. But Tony mentioned that like one of his favorite things is to just see an absolutely half empty TIA Bank stadium, and I 1,000% agree, sir.
Absolutely. I love it. All right, let's get into our final predictions. So as we're sitting here on Wednesday night recording, Georgia is favored by 22.5. The over-under is 56.5. That gives us an implied score of Georgia 39.5 to Florida 17. Our friends over at Chapel Bell Curve, their CBC R2 Sam model has Georgia 40.7 to Florida 17.7. So not far off actually from the implied score there. Let's see. And then what OddsShark? It is, right? And then OddsShark has Georgia 41.7 to Florida 25.9, which would be a Georgia win, a Florida cover, and the over.
As points leader, I'm going to let you go first.
That was amazing. Well played. Okay. I mean, like my general, I'll just kind of, I will rehash what I said earlier. And like my general talking points about this game is it's like everything statistically says Georgia should run away with this. Like the only thing that concerns me is like, there's nothing like material to point to these things. It's all like feelings, being scared of days past. But we've said on this podcast, you were the one that said it to me. Munsoning is dead. Munsoning is over. And Kirby we trust. So I'm getting those things out of my head. I've got Georgia 35-17. That's a win. It's not a cover, and it's the under. But that's what I've got.
Eesh, Jim. I figured that was where you were going when you mentioned the passing touchdowns and you took the under. I was like, here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am actually going to go closer to all these predicted scores, and I'm going to go 42-17.
Okay.
and I'm gonna throw a caveat out there because I do believe this is going to be the case.
Okay.
I believe that in the fourth quarter we'll be up. I think that Florida will have 10 on us or something like that, and they'll strive to score the touchdown. It won't be the first touchdown, but there will be a striving for touchdown at in the end of the fourth quarter that will put them over the edge to the 17.
Okay. I like it. That's very specific, and I like it.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah.
That makes sense.
I'm also gonna put this out there that there's a greater than 15% of me that wants to sit here and say that we shut them out.
Greater than, what do you say? Greater than 15%?
Greater than 15% of my personage that says that it would not shock me in the slightest to see us completely shut them out. I think I put that out there on the Dog Central text thread that is it within the realm of possibility that we blank them?
Right. Yeah. I think I said it's within the realm of possibility. I'll say that. It's within the realm of possibility. Like I'm not predicting it, but it's definitely possible.
Yeah. I mean, if that happens, I'd say that if we keep them under 20, under 17, that was my score. But if we keep them under those point totals, like literally everything's going right for us.
Right. Nice. Cool, man. All right. Well, this was fun.
It's about that Axia time, man. It's about that Axia time for us to wrap it up and get ready to do this thing in literally 72 hours.
Right, seriously. I love it. Yeah, man. And I know so neither of us are going to the game. I'll be sitting around. I'll be watching on the porch. Sounds like you've got some things in the works with some friends that you're hoping to.
We're hopeful.
You're hopeful. You're hopeful. I love it. So, but you should be around for the live texting. I'm anticipating potentially.
I should be around. So Carter's game kicks off at 12:00, and his game ends at 1:30, and we're about an hour away from home. So I'll be I'll be running through the front door like, have they kicked off yet?
Right. Okay. Nice. All right. I gotta say this before we wrap, John. Reminder: you gotta do your Saturday morning workout. Do not forget.
It's already in the books, man. I've already scheduled it. I've got my alarm set for Saturday. I'm running 6 miles, and we're not going to have a Missouri repeat. We're elite. We're on point. We're just continuing this thing through.
I love it, man. That's awesome. All right, man. Well, we'll be talking on Saturday, and
absolutely, man. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.